Okay, so, ready for this. Today we're doing a deep dive on karma.
Oh, interesting.
Right. It's one of those things, everyone thinks they know what it is.
Yeah.
But when you really start to dig in, it gets, well, kind of deep.
I'm intrigued. Where are we starting?
We've got this lesson on, get this, Karma and Interdependent Origination, the web of existence.
Okay, catchy. I like that it's right up front,
Oh.
a web of existence. That's a powerful image right there.
Right. And what's really cool is it's not just theoretical. The source emphasizes that understanding this stuff, it can actually empower us. It's like, getting the user manual for life or something.
Always helpful. Although, knowing life, that manual's probably way too long and complicated.
Oh, for sure. Haha. So we're here to break it down. So I gotta ask, when you hear the word karma, what pops into your mind? Because honestly, I feel like it's one of those concepts that gets tossed around a lot, but maybe not always accurately.
Totally. Like, you do something bad, bam, karma gets you.
Right. Or like, you get a parking ticket and you're like, what did I do in my past life?
Exactly. So much simplification. But this source, it dives into the real deal. And it's not about some external force dishing out rewards or punishments.
Okay, so what is it then?
Think of it more like this. Karma is the natural consequence of all our actions. Not just the things we do, but also what we say. And get this, even what we think.
Hold on, even thoughts. You mean to tell me that inner monologue that never shuts up, that has weight?
Absolutely. And there's this great example in the source. Imagine you're feeling super angry. Even if you don't actually do anything, that anger, it's not just floating in a void. It colors your mental state, right? It affects how you interact with people, even if it's subtle.
Oh yeah, like you might be a bit shorter with someone or...
Exactly. It creates ripples, even if you don't intend for it to.
Okay, so far so good. But we have to talk about this word. Interdependent origination. Because it's like karma's partner in crime in this whole equation. What's that all about?
All right. So interdependent origination, or, ready for this? Perpetuates.
Say that 3 times fast.
Right. Maybe we stick with interdependent origination for now.
Definitely. But what does it actually mean?
Think of it this way. Nothing exists in isolation. Our thoughts, our experiences, even the physical world. It all arises from this web of causes and conditions. It's all interconnected, you see. Nothing is independent.
Okay. I think I'm starting to get it. So, if karma is the action, interdependent origination is like the playing field, the environment where it all plays out. But how does that actually look in our day-to-day lives? What does this interconnectedness mean for me personally?
Okay, picture a spider web. You touch one strand, even lightly, and what happens?
The whole thing vibrates, right?
Exactly. It's a great way to think about it. Our actions, no matter how big or small, they create these vibrations in the web of existence. That's interdependent origination in action, this constant dance between cause and effect.
So we've got karma, the action, and interdependent origination, the vast interconnected web where it all unfolds. And to really understand how those two big ideas actually work together, this source we're looking at, it introduces something called the 12 links of dependent origination. Have you heard of these?
Oh, absolutely. It's like a roadmap for understanding how suffering arises and how we can maybe break free from it.
Okay, 12 links. It does sound a little intimidating. But this deep dive is all about taking it step by step, right? So let's dive into that first link.
All right, buckle up. So the first link is called ignorance.
Ignorance. Sounds a little harsh, doesn't it?
It does, but it's not about calling anyone stupid, don't worry. In this context, ignorance really just means a lack of understanding about how reality actually works. Specifically, not understanding this whole karma and interdependent origination thing.
So we're like playing the game of life without reading the rule book.
Precisely. And because of that ignorance, the second link pops up. Mental formations. We're not aware of the bigger picture, so we operate on autopilot, driven by our old habits and conditioning, and that's where those karmic seeds come into play, the tendencies shaped by our past experiences.
So it's like we're kind of pre-programmed in a way. Our past is influencing our present actions.
In a way, yeah. But here's the kicker. Those actions then create new karma, which impacts our future, which... Well, you see where this is going. It's a loop.
It's all connected. So where does this loop take us next? What's link number 3?
That would be consciousness. And get this, it's not some blank slate. Our consciousness, it arises from those mental formations we were just talking about, right? It's colored by those deeply ingrained karmic seeds.
So the way we experience life, it's already filtered through this lens of our past actions and conditioning. Whoa. All right, now I'm really hooked. What's next in this chain reaction?
Link number 4 brings us to name and form. And here's where things start to get a little abstract.
Name and form. All right, everyone listening, time to put on your thinking caps. What does that even mean?
This is basically the point where our consciousness, which is, let's not forget, already shaped by karma, it manifests into a physical form, a body, and a new mental experience, starting a new cycle of existence.
Okay, so are we talking about like reincarnation here? How our past actions influence our next life?
Well, that's a whole other deep dive.
Haha, fair enough. I think we've already given everyone a lot to digress.
All right, everyone, welcome back. I hope you've got your thinking caps firmly strapped on because we are picking up right where we left off, diving deep into the 12 links of dependent origination.
And let me tell you, things are about to get even more interesting. We're going deeper into the web of existence.
I am so ready. So last time we left off with that mind-bending concept of name and form, how our consciousness, shaped by karma, takes on a new form in each life. Or at least that's one interpretation. But either way, it's a lot to wrap your head around. So where do we go from there? What's link number 5? All right, so we've got this new form, right? Well, link 5 is the 6 sense spaces. Pretty straightforward. It's our senses. Sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch.
Okay, makes sense. We're experiencing the world. What's the big deal?
Well, we also have the 6th sense space, which is the mind. It's our ability to perceive not just the physical world, but thoughts and emotions too.
Okay, so it's not just about physical senses. Got it. But I still don't quite see what's so crucial about this link.
Here's the thing. Our senses, they don't operate in a vacuum, right? Remember all that talk about karmic seeds? Well, those seeds, those ingrained patterns from our past, they're like filters on our senses. They influence how we experience everything.
So two people could be looking at the exact same thing, but they're not really seeing the same thing.
Exactly. Think about it. You and your best friend listen to the same song. One of you is totally moved. The other one, not so much.
Oh, totally. Or like a certain smell that brings back a vivid memory for me might not do anything for someone else.
Exactly. It's all about perception and how our own unique karmic experiences shape that perception. We're all viewing the world through these like personalized lenses, basically.
Okay, that's a seriously cool way to think about it. It's not just about objective reality, but how our own personal history, our karma, shapes how we experience that reality.
Right. So we've got these sense bases, but then they actually connect with the world.
Right. Okay, so like what happens after my ears pick up the sound of that song or my nose smells that familiar scent?
That brings us to the 6th link, contact. This is where our senses actually engage with an object and experience.
Okay, so if we stick with the music example, it would be like, the sound waves hitting my eardrums. That's the contact point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here's the catch. That contact, on its own, it's neutral. It's just data. It's the next link, feeling, where things get really interesting. Because that's where we inject emotion and personal meaning into the experience.
Feeling. Oh, I see where this is going. It's not just the sound waves. It's how that song makes me feel. Whether I like it or not, whether it brings back memories.
You got it. And that feeling, it could be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. But remember, because of our karmic imprints, we're wired to experience certain feelings more intensely or more often than others.
Okay, so someone with a history of, say, heartbreak might be way more sensitive to sad songs. It's not just that they're choosing to be more affected by it. Those feelings are amplified by their past experiences.
Exactly. It's like certain emotional buttons are easier to press because of our karma. And when that happens, especially if it's a strong feeling, well, it often leads us right into the 8th link, craving.
Craving. Okay, this is where I think a lot of people can relate. Because it's not just about enjoying something in the moment. It's that desire for more of it. That feeling of like, I need this to be happy.
You're getting it. And it's not just about like wanting another slice of cake. This craving can attach to anything, relationships, possessions, even ideas or beliefs.
So if feeling those intense emotions is like pressing a button, craving is like holding the button down.
I like that. And once that button's held down, it's easy to get stuck on clinging. That's link number 9.
Clinging. So now we've moved past just craving something, and we're really grasping onto it.
Right. We're attaching ourselves to the idea of it, to the happiness we think it will bring. And this clinging, this grasping, it's the root of so much suffering.
It's not the thing itself that's the problem, but our attachment to it, to this idea of what it represents.
Exactly. And this clinging, it shows up everywhere, right? We cling to relationships, possessions, ideas, heck, even social media likes, anything we think will validate us, give us that sense of security or happiness we're looking for. but it's a trap.
It's like the more we cling, the more we suffer when that thing inevitably changes, disappears. Okay, this is heavy stuff. We're halfway through these 12 links, and I think everyone, myself included, needs a minute to process. Okay, deep breaths, everyone, because we're tackling the final 3 links in this 12-link chain of, what's it called again?
Interdependent origination. We're almost there. But these last few links, they're crucial because they point toward a way out.
A way out, you say, because honestly, up until this point, we've been talking about how our actions create all these ripples, how our past shapes our present, and it can feel kind of, well...
Heavy?
Yeah. Like, are we really in control of our lives, or are we just puppets on a string?
That's a big question, right? And it's understandable to feel that weight. But here's the thing. Understanding all of this, these 12 links, it's not about resigning ourselves to some predetermined fate. It's about recognizing that we actually have agency.
Okay, so less dwelling on the past and more like, what can we actually do with this information in the present?
Exactly. And it all circles back to that very first link in the chain, remember, ignorance.
Yes.
Specifically, not understanding this interconnectedness, this law of cause and effect.
Right, we're playing the game blind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So step 1 is to shed some light on that ignorance, to replace it with understanding. And that's where practices like mindfulness come in. Have you ever tried that?
Mindfulness. Everyone's talking about mindfulness these days, but I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure I understand what it really is.
Basically, it's about paying attention, like really paying attention to our thoughts, feelings, sensations, all of it, without judgment.
So instead of getting swept away by that craving for another cookie, I notice it, but I don't beat myself up for it.
Exactly. You're just observing. And in that space, between the feeling and the reaction, that's where the magic happens.
So it's not about, like, suppressing our feelings or pretending they're not there. It's more about changing our relationship to them.
You got it. And the more we practice mindfulness, the more we start to see those karmic patterns in action, those habitual reactions. And that awareness, that's where our freedom lies.
Because then we can actually choose a different course of action. We're not just ruled by those old patterns.
Precisely. Remember, karma isn't about punishment. It's cause and effect.
Yeah.
If we keep planting the same seeds, we're going to keep getting the same results. But if we change our actions, even in small ways, we start to shift the entire trajectory.
It's like that saying, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Exactly, and that's what's so empowering about this. We're not helpless. We have a say in how things unfold.
Okay, so bringing it back to those last 3 links then, we've got becoming, birth, and old age and death. Help me understand how those fit into all of this.
All right, so becoming. This link, it's about how our actions, all those choices we're making, they create the blueprint for our future experiences.
We're literally building our future selves moment to moment through our actions.
You got it. And according to some interpretations, this process of becoming, it even extends across lifetimes. But even if we just focus on this lifetime, that's a pretty powerful concept, right?
It's both exciting and kind of terrifying at the same time, like no pressure or anything.
Right. But that becoming, it inevitably leads to birth.
So we're not just talking about physical birth here.
Nope. Birth, in this context, it refers to new experiences, new situations, new chapters in our lives. It's the manifestation of that blueprint we've been creating.
Okay, so we're born into a new reality that we've had a hand in shaping. And then old age and death. Sounds a little ominous. Does it have to be?
Not necessarily. Remember, in this framework, death isn't just about the physical body. It's also about the ending of experiences. The natural cycle of things coming to a close. Things come together, they fall apart, that's how it goes.
It actually makes me feel a little better. Haha.
It's about recognizing impermanence. Nothing lasts forever. And that realization, it can be incredibly freeing.
Wow, we covered some serious ground in this deep dive. We talked about karma, interdependent origination, those 12 mind-bending links. Am I going to need a nap after this?
Tell me about it. It's a lot to process, but hopefully our listeners are walking away with a deeper understanding of how their actions shape their reality and how they can use that understanding to make more skillful choices.
Exactly. This isn't about getting stuck in some predetermined fate. It's about recognizing that we have the power to create positive change, both in our own lives and in the world around us.
And that's a really beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Big thanks to our expert for guiding us through this fascinating and thought-provoking deep dive. And to our listeners, keep asking those big questions, stay curious, and let those positive ripples flow.